Apparently, Steve Harvey's mixed tribe is destroyed by another embarrassment, and there is no pace that could keep the incoherent bits of this family intact. As per the new tales, Marjorie's oldest girl, Morgan, is frantic at her own mom for leaving her father, Jim Townsend. And it seems like it has something to do with the book that Jim plans to deliver extremely before long. Well, it's been some time without the Harvey family dramatization, so how about we dive into subtleties and figure out what Morgan needs to say. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Celeb Live channel. It seems like the Harveys are the equivalent, screwed up as any other individual, and obviously the focal point of each and every show occurring in this colossal group is generally Marjorie. This time it was accounted for that her oldest girl, Morgan, resents her mom to that point that she unfollowed her on Instagram, and she would rather avoid any family social occasions any longer since she can't bear seeing her mother's face. As of late, Morgan missed two significant family gatherings, with one of them being her sister Lori's birthday celebration. And the shortfall of Morgan on the photographs added fuel to the reports. This January, Lori tossed two birthday celebrations, one public slam in a Los Angeles club for her superstar companions, and a second party in Atlanta for her nearby relatives. Yet Morgan was not seen at the two players. She rather went on a getaway to the Dominican Republic. As per her Instagram posts, as brought up by the media, Morgan seems to have been alienated from Steve, Marjorie, and Lori for quite a while. As per Radar Online, there was developing pressure among the relatives, and Morgan took in the miserable truth about her mom that had been recently covered up. It seems like Morgan would rather do nothing with this family, and she feels that Marjorie was off base when she deserted her most memorable spouse, who is Morgan's natural dad, Jim Townsend. And regardless of Steve Harvey being overall quite sort of liberal, I surmise Morgan can't excuse her mother now that she had taken in a few succulent subtleties of her previous existence, with Jim and the manner in which he got busted by the police and tossed behind bars all through. Well, Marjorie's past should be transformed into a blockbuster in light of the fact that prior to getting hitched to renowned comic and television as Steve Harvey, she had a seriously brilliant existence brimming with undertakings. And don't get me wrong, folks, I respect her abilities and strength. Yet this is the story not about her capacity to arise solid from each outrage, yet about her strolling over individuals' heads and controlling them to get what she needed. A couple. As of now, the fight among Morgan and Marjorie began when Marjorie's ex and Morgan's organic father, Jim Townsend, declared that he was chipping away at his tell-all diary, and a few pieces of his book would be committed to his existence with Marjorie. As Jim reported, the book would spill beans on their marriage and Marjorie's contribution in drug ring grade. It seems like that we don't need to trust that this book will be delivered on the grounds that Morgan is anxious to spill a few subtleties and assist us with understanding what an individual her mom genuinely is. And it seems like Morgan faults her mother for leaving her then. At that point, husband Jim in prison and bouncing one more boss bed when she got an opportunity. On the off chance that you don't have the foggiest idea about this story, here is an extremely fast recap. So Jim Townsend, a 70-year-old used-to-be drug master, was let out of jail subsequent to serving 26 years of a lifelong incarceration due to being conceded an absolution by previous President Barack Obama. He was initially secured for endeavoring to buy 40 kilos of nose sweets. The FBI and DL additionally thought his then-wife Marjorie in having an impact in Townsend's ring and assisting her significant other with bringing in cash by managing. Yet on account of Jim and his arrangement with the federal authorities, Marjorie left liberated from any charges. I sort of comprehend Jim's intentions to cut the arrangement with the FBI on the grounds that Marjorie was vigorously pregnant around that, and Morgan was as yet a kid, so having two guardians secured in jail didn't seem as though encouraging future for a young lady, and Jim put the requirements of his family over his own life. An opportunity. Marjorie was endlessly thankful for the opportunity to walk free. So she expressed gratitude toward Jim by separating from him in 5 years and finding comfort in the arms and bit of another top dog named Darnell Woods, who is purportedly Lori's organic dad. The story deteriorates, particularly for Morgan, since when Marjorie became weary of her life of medication sovereign, she allowed Steve Harvey an opportunity to prevail upon her, something he had been attempting to do starting around 1987, when the humorist previously saw this lady, and as Jim uncovered at around that time, Marjorie quit considering him, and surprisingly, cut all his correspondence with his children Morgan and Jason. When Jim escaped the jail, he was anxious to invest more energy with his kids, yet Marjorie, presumably constrained by Steve, restricted himself. As Jimmy said, such an extremely long time, I could call night or day. And she was consistently there for me yet. When she met him, the telephone was removed the following day. Well, I surmised to this end. Morgan faults her mom for the young lady. It barely made a difference that her father was secured for purchasing the unlawful stuff. Everybody that she needed is to accompany her daddy. And on second thought, Marjorie pushed an outsider on her. And despite the fact that Steve was only kind and caring, I figure it didn't change the way that he wasn't Morgan's organic father. And it probably been more earnestly for her than for her sibling Jason, since she was 5 years of age when they tossed her father behind bars. And clearly she was damaged to be disengaged with him in such a brutal manner. And presently being full-grown herself, she faults Marjorie for removing the minutes with her father. Evidently, as a mother, Marjorie was doing awesome for her children. And around then she couldn't help suspecting that she ought to cut off all binds with this man and quit being related with her crook past. Well, it's honorable, yet it actually doesn't make sense of why Marjorie chose to disregard Morgan and Jason and dedicate all thoughtfulness regarding her most youthful girl, Lori. As per Radar Online, there was developing strain among the kin over Lori's prevalence and the way that she taking the spotlight with her prominent of life, while Morgan needed to live in the shadow. And it's not only Morgan's viewpoint. Everybody sees that both Steve and Marjorie love Lori more than different children, as one individual composed Morgan is truly gorgeous, yet I noticed their mother just show-offs the other girl, Lori. Well, Marjorie's way of behaving completely makes sense of why Morgan is distraught at her and doesn't have any desire to play the blissful Harvey family any longer. Assuming Jim's method for venting his displeasure was composing a book, Morgan took it considerably further and chose to cut all binds with her mother. As a disciplined fans even called attention to that it looks bizarre that the mother and little girl don't follow each other on Instagram, with one client composing Morgan unfollowed Marjorie. She doesn't mess with them any longer. I wouldn't be even surprised in the event that Morgan was in contact with her father after his delivery, and she could have been the principal peruser of his tell-all journals, since the biggest piece of the book is certainly about her. Well, as Jim himself referenced, he needed to share his reality and show Marjorie's genuine nature to everybody in a way that would sound natural to him. I have no faithfulness to Marjorie. She showed her hand. I will recount my story. It don't make any difference, assuming she is familiar with it. Makes me keep thinking about whether there would be anything in this book about that bargain that Jim had with the FBI to keep Marjorie out of prison, and whether any crimes she's been engaged with would be uncovered anyway, regardless of whether this book ends up being simply a family adventure. I bet Marjorie's picture as a caring mother would sink when the diary is free to purchase. As per the portion, the book will let us know more about Jim's relationship with his little girl Morgan, and it appears as though she was genuinely her father's kid. And the entire life that Jim spent behind the bars, he was considering seeing her face once more and embracing her once again. And Marjorie took this risk from the two of them by concluding what's best for her children. The book's is, by all accounts, shocking openness of Marjorie's controlling nature since. Supposing that the passage peruses seeing Morgan generally gave pleasure to my heart, she was really my favorite. And the main explanation I hadn't killed her mom, as Morgan couldn't comprehend what was occurring. She turned her consideration back to me. and stared at me, giving me a look that said, "Come and get me, Daddy." It's beyond any good time to set things right, particularly among Jim and Marjorie. And by what we've quite recently perused, Marjorie not just deceived and deserted her significant other, who had forfeited his opportunity for her yet, she additionally removed his children from him. And surprisingly, demanded them taking Steve's last name. Now I can't help thinking about what other grimy cloth Jim would air when his book is delivered. And I trust that Steve and Marjorie won't utilize all their leverage and ability to prevent these disclosures from coming. Morgan has the right to know reality behind her family's past. And for the most part, she has to know why her mom took such an excessive time that Morgan might have enjoyed with her father. Many individuals, except that Marjorie was just putting forth a valiant effort for herself. And since she needed to confine herself from the criminal world, she needed to forfeit Morgan's relationship with her father for the entire family. As one client composed, Marjorie is manipulative. She had zero scholastic training. She was from the road. And she had a PhD in road hustling. Or wasn't sourced to keep her opportunity. And another fan composed, "We can gain tons of useful knowledge from Marjorie. She knows how to utilize her female powers." Well, Marjorie surely made some things happen, and a few ties between her girl and Jim. And I surmise for this reason Morgan would rather not be a piece of this tribe any longer. She's profoundly wounded by her mother's strategies and second thoughts of not having invested sufficient time with her father. And what really do figure is Morgan accusing Marjorie, due to her demolished relationship with an organic dad, or this fair envy in light of the fact that Lori gets it all popularity consideration and guardians.